Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, August 23rd meeting of the Plan Commission. The time is 7 p.m. Continue with the roll call. I am Kim Smith, present. Alder Tom Smith.
Present.
Jared Holter.
Here.
Jan Brock. Newt Temte.
Present.
Greg Breitsprecher is absent. Bill Lethan.
Here.
Okay, everyone is in attendance. Item 2, consideration and action on the minutes from the previous meeting.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Alder Tom Smith, seconded by Bill Lethan to approve the minutes from the previous meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The minutes are approved. Item 3 is public input. This time is set aside for members of the community that would like to address the Plan Commission this evening. There are also several public hearings for specific topics on the agenda. It's up to you where you would like to speak. Anyone is welcome to speak during public input. Begin by stating your name and address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes per individual. Would anyone like to address the Common Council this evening under public input? Yep, you kind of. Okay, you're going to wait for the public hearing, or you could do it.
Do you have somebody online who's?
Okay, let's hear from the person online. Please begin by stating your name and address.
Hi, my name is Sheila Cundiff. I live at 2500 Cedar Creek Lane in Onalaska, and I am the owner of Northern Land Storage, and I would like to give input on agenda items number 8 and 9. I am in favor of dropping the 2-acre minimum for school. Action Midwest has been donated property that they would like to use for a school at 1407 State Road 35. And I am in favor of dropping the 2-acre minimum so that they could do this. I think it only benefits our community when we can offer a variety of services, where we can offer a variety of places for people to work and have recreation and school. And I think this would be a wonderful addition to our community. We need more opportunities for our youth to be engaged in business. Small businesses create a strong economic environment for our community because we're not reliant on just a few big people to provide our community jobs. So the more small businesses we have, the more economically sound our community is. I think Action Midwest will be a real attribute to our community, developing the business skills of our young people. The way it was written was back in the 1960s when they wanted a 2-acre minimum. That probably made a lot of sense at that point in time. But the models for our schools have changed dramatically. And I think we should change with the time. I thank you for the opportunity to speak. Again, my name was Sheila Cundiff.
Thank you. Ma'am, could you restate your name? I was having trouble hearing you, especially at the beginning.
I'm sorry, I'm traveling right now. So it's Sheila, S-H-E-I-L-A. Last name is Cundiff, C-U-N-D as in David, I-F-F as in Frank.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else that would like to address the Plan Commission this evening? Anyone else that would like to address the Plan Commission under general public input?
Hi, this is Corey Presnick. One of the projects is representing one of the projects. Just wanted to see if Katie, is this the time to chat or to reach out, Katie?
Sure, please begin by stating your name and your address and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Perfect, thank you. Corey Presnick, C-O-R-Y-P-R-E-S-N-I-C-K. Address is 1112 First Street in Neptune Beach, Florida 32266. Just wanted to touch base. We've got a few items on the agenda today, just relating to the same project of the former Shopko redevelopment that we are working on. We've redeveloped a couple different Shopko projects throughout the state of Wisconsin, and we're really excited about this project. And I just wanted to let just let everyone know I'm online and will be available for questions, and happy to expand upon our plans to redevelop that project into multiple retail tenants and a nationally branded retail. And I think it'll be a great addition to the community. And so we're just excited to be a part of it. And I'll be around, like I said, when the agenda comes up for questions, concerns, comments. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to address the commission tonight? Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, I'm Carolyn Bostrak. I'm owner of Acton Midwest, and I just wanted to share what it was. So Acton Midwest is a non-traditional entrepreneurial school for entrepreneurs and tradespeople. So the closest one to us is in Chicago, but I'm from here and I think we deserve it. So the vision of Acton in Onalaska is to nurture our future entrepreneurs and the tradespeople by supporting our learning journey of state-of-the-art education, endless supply of activities to feed the children's curiosity. And through collaboration with local small businesses, we will raise our next generation of owners and operators who value hard work, curiosity, and the American dream. The space is located at 1407 and 35 Onalaska has been donated, that space, by Dallas and Amy Werner, the owners of First American Roofing and Siding. And Dallas and Amy understand the current trend in a diminishing number of qualified people in the workforce. Rather than stand by, they want to take action, and they also understand the struggles of today's youth and know their one-size-fits-all model does not work for everyone. They know that today's kids have choices, and they want to help support Acton Midwest as one of the alternative options, which is the reason why they felt called to donate. And this building sits on 0.8 acres. It is almost 10,000 square feet, and it's right next to the bike trail in Onalaska. This is also near the YMCA, which we collaborate with. It is near Misty's Dance School, which we also collaborate with. River Trail Bicycles, which rents bicycles that we ride on the Onalaska Bike Trail with. And this is a non-traditional school. We also use the Onalaska Omni Center. So what we're doing is we are here to talk about the 2-acre minimum, that the 2-acre minimum is required for all schools, no matter the function, be it private, public, beauty school, and tech school, trade school, all of them. And it was developed back in the 1960s. Over the past 7 decades, education and technology have expanded exponentially. And we feel that this rule needs to be modernized. So we asked the planning department about the reasoning behind the 2-acre minimum, and they looked into it, and we thank them for that. Thank you. And it was found that it was perhaps assumed, there wasn't really a history behind it, but it was assumed that perhaps that 2-acre minimum came up because of sports and extracurriculars. Now, Acton is a non-traditional school, and we do not plan to offer sports. Our parents coordinate their own extracurriculars and use the local sports activities in the area. So we do not have students from Onalaska. We actually have students driving from Rochester, from Houston, from Caledonia. We have students coming in from Holman. And you may have heard of us. We had the very first Acton Children's Business Fair in our area, where we had little entrepreneurs, children, running their own little businesses in this business fair. We had 24 businesses ran by these little CEOs. Parents were not allowed to help, and it helped them learn what they're really good at. They got to learn how to try and try again and see their little lights bright. 60 little entrepreneurs we had, and we are bringing business to Onalaska. So we have parents who've traveled and they come and stay in the area during the day. They work here, they buy things here. And they're also looking to relocate here because of this school. So, thank you. I wanted to just share that. And the one thing that we learned over the past 3 years is that there's no cookie cutter education that works for everyone. And every child deserves an opportunity to thrive in an environment that is unique as they are. And we're creating the next generation of entrepreneurs. Children who attend Acton are children who thrive in a non-traditional model. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the Common Council this, or I'm sorry, wrong meeting, Plan Commission this evening? Now is the time for general input. If anyone would like to address the Plan Commission. Last chance, if anyone would like to address the Plan Commission this evening. Okay, public input is now complete and we will move on to consideration and possible action on the following items. Item 4 is a public hearing. This is for a rezoning application to rezone a total of 43 parcels of land to the following zoning districts to allow for future development within the Grandview Estates subdivision. Item 1, from low density residential R1 to low medium density R2. These are districts for lots 6 through 18, 23 through 28. These are tax parcel ID numbers 18-6613-0 and 16-6614-0, 18-6615-0, 18-6616-0, 18-6617-0, 18-6618-0, 18-6619-0, 18-6620, 18-6621-0, 18-6220, 18-66230, 18-66240, 18-66250, 18-66300, 18-66310, 18-66320, 18-66330, 18-66340, and 18-66350. Those are those. So you guys better not repeat this when you restate the motion. I'll read it into the record once for posterity. From low density residential R1 to medium density residential R3 district for lots 1 through 5 and 29 through 35. These are tax parcel ID numbers 18-66080, 18-66090, 18-66100, 18-66110, 18-66120, 18-66360, 18-66370, 18-66380, 18-66390, 18-66400, 18-66410, and 18-66420. And then from low density residential R1 to mixed use neighborhood, which is a MUN code, districts for lots 19 through 22. These are tax parcel ID numbers 18-66260, 18-66270, 18-66280, and 18-66290. And then finally, from low density residential R1 to park and open space P2 for the district outlots 1 through 3 and 5 through 7. These are tax parcel ID numbers 18-66430, 18-66440, 18-66450, 18-66470, 18-66480, and finally 18-66900. And outlots 89 and, or excuse me, 8 and 9 of Grandview Estates subdivision phase 2. These are tax parcel ID numbers 18-66710 and 18-66720. The applicant is Grandview Estates. I'll ask first if anyone would like to speak in favor of this rezoning application to rezone the parcels as described. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Please begin by stating your name and your address.
Christopher Meyer with Grandview Estates, and I am in Onalaska, Wisconsin on
Gosh, I can't even remember my home address right now, Madera Lane. As you can tell, we are bringing a lot of tax parcels into the city of Onalaska. This journey began with the city almost 2 years ago to the day when we first presented this project, if you will. And it's been a long 2 years, and I can happily say I am glad to be here today, formally requesting that you adapt the zoning that we presented, again, almost 2 years ago today. As many of you know, we have went through many different meetings to get here today, and it even took a long-term planning commission meeting to change the long view map of how the city of Onalaska viewed the use of this parcel. So it hasn't been a normal process. It's been a pretty expanded process. And it's been a learning experience for me to go through. And I appreciate from everybody within the city of Onalaska, the patience to help us learn as we go, if you will. I am pleased to announce that as of today, the asphalt on phase 1 and phase 2 for the first lifts have been installed. Curb and gutter, all electrical, gas, and utilities are in. Water, sewer. As of today, we have 37 of the 59 lots sold under the zoning that we have represented for the last 2 years. That we're hoping that the city formally approves today. We have some builders that would like to pull building permits on September 15th, right after the last city council meeting. They're kind of chomping at the bit. They have made a couple phone calls for, just informal. Is everything looking okay? My wife and I believe in this project very much. We will actually be becoming part of the community up in Grandview Estates. We just believe it's a great addition that mirrors the existing neighborhood that's surrounding it. And I am here to answer any questions there may be.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Would anyone like to speak in favor of the rezoning application from Grandview Estates? Second call, if anyone would like to speak in favor. Third and final call for anyone wishing to speak in favor of this rezoning application. Okay, that part of the public hearing is now closed, and I'll ask if anyone would like to speak against. Would anyone like to speak against the rezoning application this evening? Second call, if anyone would like to speak against the rezoning application. Third and final call for anyone wishing to speak against the rezoning application for Grandview Estates. Not seeing or hearing anyone, the public hearing is now closed, and I would like to ask our planning director, Katie Aspenson, to give a brief introduction of this item to the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. The requested 43 parcels are part of the Grandview Estates Planned Unit Development, which is approved by the Common Council and Plan Commission in 2021. Condition number 16 of the final implementation plan allowed the owner and developer to create this PUD without having the base zoning districts in place prior to the creation of the PUD. They are required to rezone all of the parcels that the mayor read into the record, either after recordation of a plat or a CSM, in order to match the approved land use plan on file for this PUD. The Common Council approved 2 final plats for Grandview Estates Phase 1 and Phase 2 in 2022, and the owner developer is applying to rezone those parcels as described below in the staff report. What is being proposed is consistent with the approved land use plan on file associated with the Grandview Estates PUD. Currently, all of this land is zoned single-family residential, R1, with our low-density residential district with a PUD overlay. City staff have put together 9 conditions of approval for this development. Thank you.
Thank you. What is the desire of the Plan Commission this evening?
I will make a motion that we approve the zoning application for the 43 parcels as noted in agenda number 4 with the 9 conditions.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Tom Smith that's been seconded by Skip Tempte to approve the rezoning application from Grandview Estates for the 43 parcels. Is there any discussion? Skip?
I think that nationwide, we see that there is a great shortage of affordable housing these days. I think this is a step in the way of making a less costly than if it's all R1. So I think this is a good move.
Thank you. Any other discussion from the Plan Commission?
Been a long process, but yeah, it's been nice to see it come together. It's been a couple of years, so some of us have been on this thing for a while, so it's nice to see it come to fruition.
Okay, the motion on the floor is to approve. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The rezoning application is approved with the 9 conditions. Item 5 is a public hearing for the conditional use permit application to remove 6 antennas and 15 remote radio units and replace with 15 antennas and 8 remote radio units on the existing telecommunications tower located at 1119 Monroe Street on Alaska. This is tax parcel 18767-1. Thankfully, there's only one tax parcel involved in this. The application is by SBA Communication Corporation, Verizon, and Sand Lake Development LLC. So I'll open the public hearing by asking if anyone would like to speak in favor of this item tonight. Second call for anyone wishing to speak in favor. If you do, please start by stating your name and address. Third and final call for anyone wishing to speak in favor of the conditional use permit for the antennas. Okay, that part of the public hearing is closed, and now I'm going to ask for people who would like to speak against the conditional use permit. Anyone wishing to speak against the conditional use permit for the antennas located on Monroe Street? Now is the time to do so. Second call for anyone wishing to speak against. Third and final call for anyone wishing to speak against this conditional use permit. I'm not seeing or hearing anyone, so this public hearing is now closed, and I'll ask Katie Aspenson to introduce this item to the Plan Commission this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. The telecommunication structure is an 85-foot tall monopole, and Verizon proposes to remove 6 antennas and 15 RRUs to replace with 15 antennas and 18 RRUs on the existing tower. Adding the additional antennas intended to improve the range and quality of service for the area served by the tower. The structural analysis report that was performed showed that the existing tower foundation is sufficient to contain the proposed improvements. Telecommunication structures and towers are permitted only by conditional use permit as stated in section 13.02.22 for the permitted use principal uses table 13.02.22-1 and pursuant to the standards set forth in section 13.05.22. The city has no basis for denial of the conditional use permit, but has found a basis to impose the following conditions. I will read the conditions and the substantial evidence into the record. Condition number 1, owner developer shall pay all fees and have all plans reviewed and approved by the city prior to obtaining a building permit. Owner developer must have all conditions satisfied and improvements installed per approved plans prior to issuance of occupancy permits. Substantial evidence. This condition provides notice to the owner developer that they are to follow the procedure for orderly development in the city of Onalaska and in order to promote the health, safety, and welfare of the city. Condition number 2. All conditions run with the land and are binding upon the original developer and all heirs, successors, and assigns so long as the conditional use is being actively used. Substantial evidence. This condition acknowledges and provides public notice of the term and puts the owner developer and future owners on notice that they are bound by the conditions and that they can continue the use as long as they follow the conditions and actively use the conditional use. Condition number 3. Owner developer shall abide by the city's ordinances, unified development code, and building code requirements as amended. Substantial evidence. This condition assures that the owner developer understands that they must follow the city's Unified Development Code and Building Code, which they are required to follow in every way, and as that they are receiving the benefit of being allowed to have a use that is not within the standards of the city's zoning code. Failure to follow city ordinances may result in loss of their conditional use permit. Condition number 4, the conditional use permit shall be reviewed every 5 years to ensure continued use. Substantial evidence. This shifts the burden to the owner of the property to provide proof that the use is active and continuing. Ensuring that the existing permits are still valid and being properly used ensures compliance with the city's procedures and ordinances and promotes interaction and communication with the city, which further orderly development and the health, safety, and welfare of the city. As a public hearing has been held, testimony should be based on substantial evidence. Only where no reasonable conditions could exist to allow the conditional use may a conditional use permit be denied. There are 4 conditions of approval associated with this development. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I'll turn this matter of the conditional use permit over to the Plan Commission.
I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit as outlined for the telecommunications tower at 1119 Monroe Street. With the 4 conditions attached.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
We have a motion on the floor by Jared Holter. It's been seconded by Skip Tempty to approve the conditional use permit with the 4 conditions. Is there any discussion? Not seeing any. I'll ask so the motion is to approve. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 6 is a public hearing for a rezoning application to rezone a property from mixed use community. The code is MUC to regional business. The code is B3. District to facilitate the redevelopment of the Shopko property with the building additions and the other site improvements located at 9366 State Road 16 on Alaska. This is tax parcel ID number 18-35899. The applicant is Excel Engineering, CORTA, and Paradise Wisconsin Properties, LLC. I'll open the public hearing and ask if anyone would like to speak in favor of this item this evening. Second call, if anyone would like to speak in favor of this rezoning application. Third and final call for anyone wishing to speak in favor. That portion of the public hearing is now closed, and I'll ask if anyone would like to speak against the rezoning of the former Shopko property. Would anyone like to speak against the rezoning of this property? Third and final call for anyone wishing to speak against. Not seeing or hearing anyone, the public hearing is now closed, and I will ask Katie Aspenson to introduce this item to the Plan Commission.
Thank you, Mayor. The applicant is requesting to rezone this property from MUC mixed use community to the regional business B3 district. Previously, this parcel has held the Shopko development, which has been vacant since 2019, and they're proposing to redevelop this property by constructing 2 additions on the western and eastern sides, as well as modifying the existing structure to contain a total of 5 new retail businesses. In 2020, the city of Onalaska rezoned this property from light industrial to the newly established mixed-use community districts in the hopes of spurring a mixed-use redevelopment after the store closure. After numerous inquiries into the site by primarily industrial uses, this particular applicant is proposing to continue the high-intensity retail store use, which is permitted in both the existing and proposed zoning district, which is also in line with the State Road 16 highway corridor for retail development. The applicant intends a notable investment which would exceed 50% of the total assessed value of the structure, which would require the applicant to adhere to all of the architectural design standards of the MUC district. The applicant intends to adhere to the requirements on the primary entrance of the State Road 16 frontage, with some smaller facade improvements where the additions would occur on the western and eastern sides. As this property has 3 frontages, all the standards are required on all of the frontages, and the applicant is unable to fill all of the district design requirements. And instead, they're requesting to rezone this property. Abutting properties do have the R Regional Business B3 District zoning designation, and the applicant plans to keep the previously noted facade improvements regardless of the zoning designation. Lastly, they're requesting this district in order to utilize the increased signage allotments that are available within this district as opposed to reduced signage which occurs in the MUC district. City staff have put together 7 conditions of approval for this development.
Thank you for that. Okay, the item on the floor is the rezoning from mixed use community to regional business district. What is the desire of the Plan Commission?
I'll make a motion that we approve the moving to, let me see here. Hearing that we rezone the property from mixed use community to regional business B3 district to facilitate the redevelopment of the Shopko property as noted in agenda item number 6 with the 7 conditions.
Oh, I'll second it.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Tom Smith. It's been seconded by Newt Temte to approve the rezoning request with the 7 conditions. Is there any discussion? Not seeing or hearing any. The motion on the floor is to approve with 7 conditions. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Item 7 is a public hearing for a planned commercial industrial district, a PCID amendment application to amend the East Town Plaza Development PCID to facilitate the redevelopment of the Shopko property with building additions and other site improvements, and request deviations from the Unified Development Code relating to common open space, parking lot setbacks, and parking lot islands. This is located at 9366 State Road 16 on Alaska and is tax parcel ID number 18-3589-9. The applicant is Excel Engineering and Corta and Paradise Wisconsin Properties LLC. So I'll open the public hearing by asking if anyone would like to speak in favor of this amendment to the planned commercial industrial district. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Second call for anyone who would like to speak in favor of this amendment. Third and final call for anyone wishing to speak in favor. That portion is now closed, and I would like to ask if anyone would like to speak against amending the planned commercial industrial district. Second call for anyone wishing to speak against. Third and final call for anyone wishing to speak against this amendment. The public hearing is now closed, and I'd like to ask Katie Aspenson to introduce this topic to the Plan Commission this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. The applicant is requesting to amend the East Town Plaza PCID to allow for the redevelopment of Shopko. As stated previously, the existing store is proposed to contain a total of 5 retail tenants. The new total square footage of the facility will be 113,875 square feet with approximately 28,000 square feet of unoccupied storage area. Access to the site will remain the same with a driveway off of Braun Street and 2 driveways off of County Road PH. Cross-lot access with the property immediately east of the development is also proposed to remain intact. The developer intends to maintain and improve the landscaping berm along the western side of the property of Braun Street to provide the required screening for neighboring residences. This landscape berm, as well as proposed interior parking lot islands, which do not exist today, provide the minimum 10% landscaping that is required for this development. They also intend to replace any dead trees as well as install 26 new trees, which will exceed the minimum required tree planting count. Included in your packet this evening is a site plan showing the existing building footprint, proposed building additions, and other parking and other site amenities. Also the cover letter that describes the overall development and the requested deviations from our UDC, which I will go over with you this evening. The Looking at density, they're looking to rezone from mixed use community district to the regional business district as previously described. It is consistent with the B3 district lot and site dimension standards. There are no proposed deviations from the code. The PUD perimeter is looking to remain and complement existing adjacent uses and infrastructure. The proposed project is consistent with what is there today, as well as the anticipated improvements of landscaping, parking lot islands, and lightings will enhance the overall site. No deviations, as well as the lot area and the setbacks. In terms of building height, they will not exceed the maximum height of the B3 district. And in terms of environmental design, the proposed development will retain and improve all existing green space on site, as well as install additional parking lot islands, landscaping areas exceeding the minimum landscaping requirement. Common open space. The applicant has requested to reduce or waive the 15% open space requirement for a PUD. They do note that they have approximately 11.8% of the site being turf grassed or landscaped. The site was originally constructed as a big box retailer, and the proposed use is to remain as retail. So to encourage visual quality, they are proposing planting islands in the parking lot to increase green space on site. Again, meeting our minimum landscaping requirement and ensuring that the vegetated buffer on the western side of the development remains intact. City staff are in support of this request, as during the initial construction of the site, open space was not a consideration for commercial development. The provision of additional planting islands adds a softer elements to the site and brings the property into closer conformance with the UDC. Outside of enclosures and loading docks, the site is fully accessible by the public for commercial purposes. Included in your packet are architectural with facade improvements. There are no proposed deviations from the UDC. In particular to parking, the retail store high intensity requires 1 parking space per 250 square feet of gross floor area. Based on the new building square footage, there's a minimum of 456 parking stalls, which are required and are proposed. They are requesting a deviation from UDC section 13.03.21.B.3.C, which requires a 5-foot buffer of a parking lot setback from a parcel line. The pavement on the eastern parcel boundary has between a 2 and 0 foot setback, as it facilitates access to the adjacent development and are protected by crosswalk access easement. The parking lot serving the development today has a varied setback of nearly 10 foot to just over half a foot along State Road 16 as it was originally constructed. They're requesting to not provide the 5-foot setbacks, as it would require the removal of parking spaces and would negatively impact existing drive lanes and traffic routes on site. City staff are in support of this request to not provide the 5-foot parking setback along State Road 16 and the eastern parcel line. The remainder of the site is in conformance with all the required setbacks. And as the pavement exists today, a reduction of stalls would be more detrimental to the overall development and cause a parking space reduction, bringing the property out of conformance with the minimum required parking stalls. Further, the cross-lot access easements will be retained to allow movement between the adjoining properties. There are no deviations from streets, utilities, drainage, traffic calming, and circulation and site access. Pertaining to landscaping, lastly, a landscaping plan has been submitted and reviewed by city staff through the site plan permitting process. The UDC requires 67 trees based upon street frontage, and they're proposing 74 trees, 26 of which are new, as well as replacing dead trees on site today. Additionally, a minimum of 10% of landscaping is required, and they're proposing 10.8% of landscaping, including parking lot islands and landscape berms. They're specifically requesting a reduction of UDC section 13.03.31.E landscaping requirement, specifically to not install landscape parking lot islands every 15 parking stalls, but only at the end of the vehicular rows. 25 new parking lot islands are proposed to be installed at the ends of the vehicular rows to assist in defining vehicular traffic patterns and providing additional open space on site. The site is located within an archaeological sensitive areas indicated by the Wisconsin Historical Preservation Database, which has been included in the packet, and to protect the existing site at the maximum extent practical. They're trying to reduce as much site disturbance as possible while meeting the intent of the landscaping requirements by the city. City staff are in support of this request as currently 6.9% of the landscaping exists today. And with the additional parking lot islands, they will give us 10.8%. No landscaped parking lot islands exist today. City staff believe the intent of the ordinance to provide them at the ends of vehicular rows is being met. However, in some cases, the islands do exceed 15 stalls. To add the additional required landscaping islands, they would be required to lose parking lot stalls. Again, related to signage, there are no proposed deviations as they would adhere to the B3 district signage. City staff have put together 14 conditions of approval for this development. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Kitty. With that being said, we'll turn this amendment of the Planned Commercial Industrial District over to the Plan Commission. What is your desire?
This is Bill Ethan. I just have a basic question. It mentions in paragraph 13 there, a comment about the Wisconsin Historical Preservation Database, calling it an archaeologically sensitive area. Do we have any concerns that they may make life difficult if we pass this?
The applicant is working to get the proper permitting in place, and they'll have to have that before they begin. And they'll also have an archaeologist on site during any excavation work. So they are prepared to work with the Wisconsin Historical Society.
Okay, so we don't have to do anything ahead of time? Okay. Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the Planned Commercial Industrial District Amendment application for the former Shopko site at 9366 State Road 16 with the 14 conditions included in our packet tonight.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Jared Holter. It's been seconded by Tom Smith to approve this amendment with 14 conditions. Is there any other discussion? Skip?
Just this more curiosity than anything, but the staff report says that from PH, County Road PH, that the access will be, the cross lot access with the property immediately to the east of the development will remain intact. And I'm just curious as to what is the width of that now and what will it be afterwards? Do you have any idea, Jared?
Pretty much all of the parking lot areas are going to stay very similar. If you're referring to the access to PH from that area, there's going to be a 24-foot wide drive aisle for them to get through. So you'll be able to have sufficient for 2 lanes for 2 cars to pass. We
Do you
did.
have any idea what it is now?
It's wider than that, but it's painted with parking stalls. So I don't know the exact width currently, but it is, during the site plan review, I did look at that and it is enough for 2 cars to get through. It's wider than that currently because of just the configuration.
But there won't be any parking spots there like there is in the plan then.
There's parking spots, but there's a drive aisle through there.
Because I was
I guess I don't
looking at
know
that plan, it just looked like it wouldn't be wide enough if they had that perpendicular parking in there.
I know when I looked at the site plan as part of the,
Katie?
It is approximately 28
I
feet
don't think it'd be wide
today.
enough if that-
So it would be reduced by 24, still allowing.
There is
2-lane
20 Okay,
Okay.
thank you,
So
thank you.
Kitty has confirmed it's 28 feet currently. And under the new reorganization, it will be
24 feet.
4 feet. So it will be losing 4 feet at that egress entrance point along PH.
Just as a note, that does meet proper width for a drive aisle. 24 feet does.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the Plan Commission? Jan?
Just a question. Do we know if they will complete the middle 3 businesses in the existing Shopko building before they add on? Or do they plan to do the additions first? I just was wondering.
Katie, is that something you know the answer to?
the indication?
I believe they're looking at doing all of the work at once. However, the representative from Corda is on Zoom. If you'd like to ask that question directly to Corey.
Sure. Sir, could you just give us kind of a brief, maybe timeline and plan, just very briefly?
Sure. Yeah. To answer your question, yeah, the intent would be to the greatest extent possible, develop at the same time. Obviously, the winter conditions that will be upcoming could impact the ability to place footers and, get into the ground for new construction. We will definitely be able to obviously work in the winter inside. So there could be some lag in the new construction, but in general, the intent is to construct the entire redevelopment concurrently at the same time.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, then the motion on the floor is to approve this amendment with the 14 conditions. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 8 is a public hearing for the Unified Development Code text amendment related to use specific standards for school, college, university, trade, business, and school, elementary or secondary. The applicant is the City of Onalaska. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this text amendment, now is the time to do so. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Third and final call for anyone wishing to speak in favor of this text amendment. Okay, that portion of the hearing is now closed, and I'll ask if anyone would like to speak against the text amendment related to use specific standards for schools. Second call, if anyone would like to speak against. Third and final call for anyone wishing to speak against this text amendment. Not seeing or hearing anyone, the public hearing is now closed, and I will ask Katie to give a summary of this item.
Thank you, Mayor. The UDC today requires that all elementary schools, public and private, located on 2-acre minimum sites also have a 40-foot setback from all of their parcel lines. The City of Onalaska has required these standards since the creation of the zoning ordinance in 1969. It's assumed that this was to allow for student outdoor play areas. Based upon the feedback received at the June 28th, 2022 Plan Commission meeting, city staff have drafted the below change related to use specific standards for school, elementary, or secondary. This change would allow all the existing schools currently in the City of Onalaska, both public and private, to be in conformance with the Unified Development Code. Currently, 3 of the 8 schools do not meet the 40-foot setback standard and are considered legal nonconforming. Redlined in your packet this evening is that it would state school, elementary or secondary, the lot area shall be a minimum of 2 acres, and struck through would be and all principal structures and uses shall be a minimum of 40 feet from any lot line. Additionally, city staff continue to review these same standards for school, college, university, trade, business, as they're the same standards as I previously defined. Due to the proximity of both the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse, Wisconsin Technical College, and Viterbo, it's unlikely that an additional college or university would locate in the City of Onalaska. However, the city has seen a growing demand for business and trade schools training and the ability for individuals to obtain licenses, certifications, credentials, or education hours to attain and maintain such certifications. These types of uses typically cater to adults, where the exterior space and acreage would not meet the same need. Instead, city staff believe in these instances that the parcel size would rather be dictated by the minimum parking stalls that are based upon building and room capacities. Therefore, city staff are proposing to remove the below standards and instead regulate these types of uses through our Chapter 3 General Development Standards of the UDC. So please see below in the red strike through the deletion related to use specific standards for school, college, university, trade, and business. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you for that. Okay, that is the summary. The public hearing is closed, and I would like to now turn this over to the Plan Commission. What is your desire?
I'll make a motion that we accept the considered proposed changes related to the use of specific standards for schools, colleges, and university, trade, business, and school and elementary, secondary, as noted in agenda number 8.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Tom Smith. It's been seconded by Bill Lethan to accept the changes to the Unified Development Code text amendment as related, as described. Is there any discussion?
I just think it's just a great opportunity to be flexible, the collaboration of opportunities, it just opens up a lot of opportunities for education and some of the things we've discussed, you know, trade schools, flexibility. I just think it's a good move for us and our community. So totally support it. So.
Thank you for that. Jared?
Katie, how does this differ from item number 9? Is there any way we can, you know, if we approve this, how does it relate to item number 9?
So before you this evening are agenda item number 8 is specifically bringing back what the Plan Commission requested at the July 28th meeting, as well as the addition by staff related to colleges, universities, trade, and business. Agenda item number 9 has been brought forth by Ms. Werner, who has different language than city staff. If you choose to accept this language and recommend its approval, it will continue on in the ordinance process. You do also have the ability to change the language if deemed necessary. And the same will be so for Ms. Werner's. So it's entirely possible that one of ours may be approved, one of ours may not, or a combination thereof.
Okay. But if this is approved, the next step is for it to go to the A&J committee.
It would go to September A&J committee and potentially onto Common Council. Yes, in September.
Okay. Thank you. As far as agenda item number 8, which is the text amendment, is there any other discussion? And that is to approve the text amendment as described. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. All right, item 9, public hearing for Unified Development Code text amendment related to use specific standards for school, college, university, trade, business, and school, elementary and secondary. The applicant is Amy Werner, and I would now like to ask if anyone would like to speak in favor of this text amendment.
Joe Chilson, 500 10th Avenue North, Onalaska. I wish to speak about the changing of education. I tend to know a little bit about this as I served for 27 years at the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse, and for 6 years prior to that in Winona at St. Mary's, and a year prior to that out on the East Coast in education. And what I have learned is that education is always changing. And I think if COVID taught us anything, it taught us that it changes a lot. And we can educate people a lot of different ways. I was also while at University of Wisconsin-La Crosse, I worked for the Small Business Development Office, and we dealt with entrepreneurs all the time. And we also dealt with young entrepreneurs. And we had a club in the College of Business for young entrepreneurs. And this is a wave that's coming, and Onalaska needs to be on the front end of that wave. Because Onalaska can make a name for itself by building from the ground up businesses in this community run by young people, really young people. And I think that we have to look at the code. I think I did the math right. It's 50 some years since that code was written. For 2 acres, I think it was probably arbitrary at the time. Somebody picked 2 acres out of the air, but it definitely is out of date now. especially for certain types of education. And this is one of those types. It's not like we're going to have a campus full of people milling around and that they're going to need that kind of elbow room. This is a very targeted, specific market. And Onalaska can be at the forefront in the state of Wisconsin at being the bedrock of this, the incubator, if you will, because this is a business incubator. And I sat up on that, I sat right in that seat not too long ago. And I know you're always looking for businesses and you always have empty stores and you always have things like that. This is a chance to get in the ground floor and train our own right here, homegrown businesses that are going to be around a long time because the people are going to be very young that start them. And not everybody, you know, I'm an old teacher, and I know, and as a matter of fact, Amy was one of my students. And I know that education has to change. And I think Onalaska has a great opportunity here to open this up, to be a bright shining light for the state. With a new and differing kind of education. I think this is a tremendous opportunity, and I would really like to see the Plan Commission move this forward and change this 2-acre requirement. I think Onalaska will be paid great dividends by doing that. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of this text amendment?
Good evening, Dallas Horner, part owner of First American Roofing and Siding with my wife, Amy. I'm also the vice president of La Crosse Area Builders Association, located in Onalaska. We had our business in Onalaska for some time. We moved to Holman for a little bit and we came back. We love this town, and we, part of the reason here tonight is we see the need in the community, in the industry, just in our area to meet kids where they're at. And we have a lot of support in the community for this. We sent this out just not even a few days ago. And I just wanted to read a few names, over 60 of them, but I won't bore you with that. But just a couple people in the community that do support this change that we're proposing tonight. Of course, the La Crosse Area Builders Association is one of them. Carter Barr with Stony Creek Hotel and Conference Center. Chris Regals from Remax. And Nicole Azine from Onalaska Animal Hospital, and many other residents and business owners. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of this text amendment? Begin by stating your name and address.
My name is Amy Hennessy Witt. I do not live in Onalaska, but I've rented a building at 756 Theater Road. I would ideally like to open a private preschool and kindergarten, but currently it only has 1.5 acres. And so I love that you're doing this. And my suggestion would be, I do think that outdoor play space is important at all schools, certainly for elementary age children, high school kids, maybe not so much. But the state daycare rules state that you need 75 square feet of play space outside for children. And you have to be able to have 1/3 of the kids outside at one time. So if you have a school with 300 children, you only need 7,500 square feet of outdoor play space. And I think that amending your rules to match something like that, where it's a certain number of square feet per child with 1/3 out at a time, would allow for smaller playgrounds and a smaller lot, but still provide adequate outdoor play. Because I think we all know that kids are, I'm very nervous, sorry. We all know that kids are attached to screens and that they're not moving enough. And I think schools should have some outdoor requirement, definitely for elementary. So that might be something to consider when you're trying to figure out how much space should be allotted or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you again. And again, I'm Carolyn Bostrak, owner of Acton Midwest. And thank you for that share as well, because we have many different businesses that are supporting us, and we're excited to be able to offer this. Thank you. And oh, and we have students in the room as well. So I just wanted to take a moment and honor everyone that showed up tonight. If you could just stand up if you're here to support Acton. Thank you. And we also have our students in the room as well. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you all for coming in. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of this text amendment? Second call for anyone wishing to speak in favor. Third and final call for anyone wishing to speak in favor of this text amendment. That portion is closed, and I'll now ask if anyone would like to speak against. Would anyone like to speak against the text amendment related to the specific standards for schools? Third and final call for anyone wishing to speak against. Not seeing anyone, so the public hearing is now closed, and I'll ask our city planning manager, Katie Aspenson, to introduce this item to the commission.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, after discussions relating to modifying the standards for schools elementary or secondary on June 28th, Planning Commission meeting, Amy Werner has applied for a text amendment to this use-specific standard, as well as the standards for schools, college, university, trade, and business. Attached is a cover letter describing the reasoning for the proposed text amendments, as well as the application. To summarize the proposed change, she's looking to merge sections 13.02.62.g and section 13.02.62f and make the following change, which would read school, college, university, trade, business, non-traditional, elementary, or secondary, with new language stating that all principal structures and uses shall be a minimum of 10 feet from any lot line. Stricken from the code would be the lot area shall be a minimum of 2 acres, and all principal structures and uses shall be a minimum of 40 feet from any lot line. And then the same, the entire standard put forth for school, elementary, or secondary, again referring to the 2 acre minimum and the 40-foot setback.
Thank you for that. Okay, I'll turn this matter over to the Plan Commission.
I will make a motion that we accept these changes as noted by Ms. Warner in agenda item number 9.
We have a motion on the floor by Tom Smith. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A motion has been seconded by Skip Tempty. Discussion. Tom?
I would just have to say, I probably had about 20 calls this week on this topic, all supportive of this change and what, as the former mayor said about the potential.
Tom, 1 second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Amanda?
I guess I just want to make sure that we clarify that we cannot accept this change and accept the change recommended in item number 8 and have them both move forward without at some point them colliding, because you essentially approved the elimination of this section in the prior item and pushed that forward to A&J. And so I think what I would recommend would be you make a recommendation to direct staff to draft the standard that you want under this section and have staff bring that forth to A&J. Because if we approve this, this is in direct, I'm just going to restate it, is directly opposite of what you just approved. So you basically eliminated a standard for college, university, and trade business. And now you're approving that standard, but revised. So do you see where the dilemma is?
So I think part of the problem, what I think I'm seeing is that I think it's kind of universal that people support the school. We just want to make sure that it's more the physicality of how the space is being used.
Just rewrite it to be consistent with one policy through planning.
To continue,
my-
yeah, we're discussing something that's not, we have a motion on the floor that's invalid.
Well, I mean, if you approve this motion, you're approving something that is directly in contravention to something else you approved. And so at some point, you have to decide which version you want to move ahead.
Should I just withdraw my motion? Withdraw my previous motion. That work for you,
Okay,
Skip?
Skip, will you withdraw your?
I'll withdraw the
second?
second, yes.
Okay,
So the question on the floor, I think, in front of all of you on this agenda item is, what do you want the standard to be for schools? Do you want there to be a minimum acreage requirement? So right now, staff proposed under item 8 that there be a 2-acre minimum, that be maintained. Ms. Warner is proposing that there be no minimum acreage requirement and a 10-foot setback. You just eliminated the setback in its entirety, and so the standard setback would apply. But I think the question here tonight that everybody wants to answer is, what is the requirement for school? Is there an acreage requirement? Is there something, as one individual proposed, is there a hybrid where it's a standard square foot per indoor space or outdoor space? And Katie can talk more about what that would look like. Or do you simply want to have no requirement?
let me start by asking Katie, on item 8, when we removed the minimum setback and had it revert to code, can you summarize the action that we took on 8? How does that affect the setbacks for this property?
Sure. So what I would related to that is the intent of the 40-foot setback is that it's beyond our minimum setback. So typically for every district, we have a minimum street yard, side yard, and rear yard. In some cases, it's 6 feet. In some cases, it's 10 feet. It changes based on the current of the zoning district at hand. So when we said 40, that meant no matter what any other rule was, it had to hit 40. So by removing the 40-foot, we now said that the district rule applied. So if that was 6 feet, 6 feet was allowed. If that was 10 feet, 10 feet was allowed. So based on that, if you want to continue going down that road, I would edit Ms. Werner's language in the fact that it would just, there would be no setback requirement, period, because you would have the district standards rule.
What is the district standards rule for this property?
For that particular district?
And just for clarification, I would not recommend that we edit Ms. Warner's language. I would recommend giving staff clear direction on what to bring forth to A&J.
Does anyone have any other questions while Kitty's looking that up for me?
And this wouldn't just be for Ms. Warner's, it would be for any school, right? If we leave it, whatever the generic would be. So any facility right now, if we left it at the generic, yeah.
Correct. So this would allow wherever a school is allowed within the zoning districts, they would have to follow their district standards. With her particular property, that's zone B2. And B2 is our community business district. They would likely have a 6-foot street yard setback on both sides. And then they would have a 10-foot rear yard setback on one of the sides of the property and a 6-foot rear yard setback on the other. So the language that is currently proposed is more restrictive than what they would be allowed if the modification in 8 was continued. So they have more freedom with what you did in agenda item number 8.
So the action that we already took really fulfills her request, except for the property size.
Except for the acreage requirement.
Okay, so then my suggestion to the commission is if you have a preference on what the size should be, to indicate that to staff so that they can add that in. And then we wouldn't have to come to public hearing. It could go to A&J. Okay. Katie?
So also handed out with you this evening, as it was previously discussed by someone during the public hearing, are another option to come forward other than an acreage requirement. As noted, there are daycare licensing facility rules that have to be met. For indoor space used by children shall be no less than 35 square feet of usable floor area per child. And then they have exclusive of passageways, kitchens, bathrooms, etc. Outdoor play space is that there shall be at least 75 square feet of outdoor play space for each child that are 2 or older that could use the space at any given time. And the total outdoor play space of a center shall accommodate not less than a third of the number of children for which the center is licensed, or be a minimum of 750 square feet. So as stated at the previous meeting by plan commissioners, if you wanted to look at, so to say, a sliding scale, this particular standard could be implemented for a school if you wanted to allow it up to a particular number of children. So if you, much like a daycare, if you have 50 kids, if you have 80 kids, I guess the question is to the plan commission, at what point is a school large enough that you may want an acreage requirement as opposed to a square footage requirement? What the flexibility that the daycare standard would allow is that only a third of the students would need that outdoor space at any given time. So if they do have K through 12, which it appears as though they're proposing, the seniors or juniors or sophomores may not necessarily need that same amount of space as, say, your first and second and third grader. So it would allow you a little more flexibility to be on the exterior and on the interior. So that is an example of a state regulation specific to daycare facilities. I can't remember offhand the number of children that were proposed to be at this particular school, but that might be a benchmark that the Plan Commission could use for this specific type of a school. And you could base it on the number of students that you would allow to be smaller as opposed to an acreage requirement.
But Katie or Amanda, if our Unified Development Code is silent on the topic of outdoor space, then the licensing body would rule?
Only if it's silent, it would not pertain because this is not a daycare facility. I gave you the daycare facility regulations because it's something that's used through our community. We have a number of daycare facilities here. As an example of a square footage requirement that you could use per child. But if it's a school, they would not have to follow this. They could essentially have whatever size property they want, provided they meet the district setbacks.
Thank you. Skip?
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion that we send this back to the Plan Commission for further work. May I explain why? Before
You can make the motion and someone can second it, and then you can talk first if it's seconded.
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay.
Nobody's going to second?
Okay, we have a motion to put it back to staff made by Newt Tempe, seconded by Bill Lethan. Okay, Skip, you have the floor.
Okay, the reason that I think that this should be sent back is we are being asked to amend section 13-02-62 subparagraph F, which we abolished in item number 8. Therefore, we cannot take any action on this at this time because it does no longer exist. And the request is, of course, to text amend something, and we can't text amend something that we have already abolished.
Thank you, Skip. I think the issue is if we put it back to staff, we have to give staff direction as to what we would like them to do when they have it back. Go ahead, Katie.
The language has not been abolished. The Plan Commission is a recommending body, so ultimately any recommendation you'd make related to the ordinance could only become formally appealed by the Common Council. So right now you've just recommended to delete that section, but that section is still intact today until a formal ordinance is amended. So you can still make changes.
Recommendations for change.
Recommendations for changes.
Okay, so right now the motion on the floor is to send it back to planning staff
So we've determined that we can do that.
I think we can do that. We can send it to A&J to formulate the change, or we could send it back to the Plan Commission, but in either way, I think the Plan Commission needs to give direction as to what is going to happen with, what do you want them to do?
I would prefer that we send it back to Katie and the Plan Commission to really make sure they're comfortable with what the next step would be and then recommend it to A&J.
Well, I think that what the staff recommendation was item 8 on the agenda, which, right, Katie, that was the staff, when at our last meeting, we directed, this body directed staff to take our notes and look at the setbacks and make the change. And so that's what they did. In a parallel activity, the applicant proposed their own wording to our code and brought it forward in a parallel manner.
So does A&J have to,
As of,
where does A&J fit into this whole thing?
I'll let Amanda answer that.
So the Administrative and Judiciary Committee reviews ordinance changes. So they would review a proposed text amendment in ordinance form, and then they would make a recommendation to either approve the ordinance or not. And then that recommendation will go on to the Common Council for final approval.
And as of right now, if this body takes no further action, we will not have the setback issue, but the 2-acre minimum will still remain as of right now. Amanda, sorry.
I think if you want to send it back to staff, I think you have to give further direction. So the direction that staff received at the last July council meeting was that you wanted to maintain the 2-acre. If you're open to exploring something that is less than 2 acres, but doesn't entirely eliminate the possibility of outdoor space, you know, as Katie stated, there are a lot of options that staff could explore as it relates to that. And so if that's the desire, then I think you make that recommendation to staff and they'll come back next month with something in that framework. If you want to simply eliminate it, then I think you just make that recommendation and have that proceed to A&J.
I think that makes sense. Okay, so the motion on the floor right now is to put it back to plan, which would indicate developing maybe some sort of sliding scale for the outdoor space. Alternatively, this could be voted down or withdrawn, and we could have another motion to just remove the outdoor space and send it to A&J. So it's up to the question, up to the desire of the commission. Are there any more, Jared?
So if we vote in favor of this motion on the table right now, what would happen to item number 8? Then it would still go to A&J, or since we voted on that already?
I think that it would go to A&J with the recommendation by staff at A&J to table it.
Okay, or to wait for its friend. Okay.
Well, so we're gonna do something about the motion that's on the floor. But so far, we haven't given staff guidance on what to do next. Is that correct?
If it goes back to staff, they're going to evaluate ways other than the 2-acre of establishing the space, the outdoor space.
And that'll happen by approving what we're about to do.
Yes. If you vote yes, it will go back to staff and they'll figure out some recommendations for a sliding scale or something like that for the outdoor space.
And that will go to A&J.
Then it will have to go back to plan and come back again. If you say you're not going to require any outdoor space, then we would vote this down. We'd send it to A&J with that recommendation, right?
They table it, but
Well, only because they don't want to make part of the change from 8 and then have the change from 9 tagging along behind.
So it comes back here, we decide either way, and then whatever we decide goes to A&J.
No matter what, it has to go to A&J next.
Makes sense. I got it.
But,
So that'd be a vote for yes, right?
that's what you want to do. So Katie, do you have enough, if this passes, do you have enough information to figure out what to do?
We can put some options together
yeah.
for something related specifically to outdoor space that isn't a 2 acre. So we might put forth the daycare language. And we might try to see what else is out there in terms of a space guide for smaller schools.
I like the idea of having some options so we can see if there's some flexibility yet.
Right. So it isn't that we don't like the school or the plan for the school, it's the idea of completely eliminating the outdoor space that's causing the hang up.
Especially because it crosses all schools too, not just one.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, Jan?
Say across all schools, should there be something different age levels would require different amounts of space? I mean, you know.
I think that's what Katie was saying,
Options, yeah.
Option, that's, okay, good.
so that we didn't completely eliminate it. Skip?
I still think it's impossible to amend F that we eliminated in 8.
Well, our action here is just to send it back to staff's planning staff, so.
That's why I made the motion to send it back to staff.
Okay. Anything else from the commissioners or the city staff? Okay, so the motion on the floor is to send this item back to our planning staff. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 10 is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
8 and 9 should.
Second.
Motion by Tom Smith, seconded by Jared Holter to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. The time is 8:25 p.m. Thank you, everyone, for coming in.